I just wanted to start by saying thank you to Chelsea and Shaquila. Where's Shaquila? There, thank you for hosting us today in this very nice office. That was really kind of them. I thought I'd start by picking on a couple of people. And for those of you who've been to one of these before, I wanted to ask you what one piece of advice you'd give to somebody that's here for the first time. Carrie?
I would say because it's a safe environment with people who are facing similar challenges, just be as honest as you can dare to be.
Good advice. It's a safe space. As you can see, we've got a range of different businesses here today, which is great, and a range of just different job titles. But the one thing that connects all of you is you're all on the front line of helping your business become a force for good. You all believe in the impact business can make on some of society's biggest problems, and you share the challenge of helping your business have an even greater impact on people and planet. So I'll tell you a little bit about the structure for the next hour and 45 minutes or so. I'm going to just do a quick introduction to the topic for today. And then we have David, our guest speaker, who I'll tell you a bit more about in a second, followed by a bit of a Q&A. So have your questions prepped for David as he's speaking. You'll all have a chance to ask some questions. And then we're going to break out into smaller discussion groups for about an hour or so before I say a few closing words and, to spoil the surprise, a little bit of a call to action for us all. We're going to be focusing on the topics from, to hold it up, our recently published 20 Conversations report. There's some copies on the table there for anyone that wants to take one away. So I spent about 6 months interviewing 20 different people in roles like yours to find out more about the challenges you're all facing when it comes to helping a business on this journey to become a force for good. Lots of people I interviewed, I think, are in the room today, so thank you to everyone who took part in those interviews. For a heritage brand, a brand that was born as a profit-led business, it's a really difficult journey you are all leading them on. You're breaking new ground because impact is still an emerging space in the world of business. There isn't a completely tried and tested blueprint for all of you to follow that guarantees success. I often think about this journey as a form of business transformation, and it requires an awful lot of change. And change, as we all know, is very, very hard in any business. Someone said to me the other day something which I think rings true here, which is that the thing is, Ryan, everyone loves transformation, but everyone hates change. So it's like, yes, that's kind of true, and I'm sure you all feel that a little bit as well. When I was doing those interviews, I really quickly realised that there were two types of companies I was speaking to. The first group of companies were largely happy kind of doing the basics. Getting an EDI policy in place, buying and offsetting some carbon, tidying up your supply chain, for example. The thing with these companies is their ambition, it didn't stretch much beyond just adhering to compliance. And for me, there are two problems with this. The first problem is that if that's the case, you're only going to ever be doing what everybody else is doing. It's going to be kind of impossible to stand out from the crowd and gain any kind of competitive advantage from the world of doing good. But for me, probably the bigger problem, the most important thing to think about is if you're just doing the basics, you're never really going to be making a dent in some of society's biggest problems, which I think is what we're all really here for. But the second group of companies were really interesting. They weren't happy just doing the basics. They have, or at least want to, move beyond that. These are the companies that I believe are going to make a dent in some of society's biggest problems and do something that they become famous for. I think it's worth saying that every company starts in bucket one. So if some people are sitting here thinking, oh, it feels a little bit like us at the moment, don't despair too much. In fact, today is all about helping you think about ways to influence and convince leadership and the rest of your colleagues to take this more seriously. As I say, I think the truth is we all get into these jobs because we want to look back at our careers in 5 years' time and say, I helped make that happen. And that's exactly essentially what the report is all about. It was speaking to people like you who are driven by their ambition to find and launch that impact-led initiative that your company will become famous for. And when I was doing those interviews and learning more about this journey of transformation to become more than just a profit-led business, I kept hearing the same 4 challenges come up over and over again. So let me quickly talk you through those challenges. The first challenge we've called Make It Ambitious. This one is all about a business unlocking their unfair advantage in doing good by translating a purpose statement into a more specific set of social, environmental and economic problems that your business is uniquely placed to solve. The second challenge we've called Make It Matter. And this is essentially about ensuring your company has made the business case and defined the commercial rationale for impact. Challenge 3, Make It Real. This is about how you embed impact into the DNA and the culture of your business. It's not just something that you do or your team does in the corner of the office, but actually it becomes part of the way everybody that works here thinks, acts, and makes decisions. And last but not least, challenge 4, we've called Make It Happen. And that's about finding this beacon initiative, as we call it, the thing that shines a light on what you're doing and is the thing that you become famous for. Having spoken to so many different people, for me, for a business to really become a force for good, they have to overcome all 4 of those challenges. And the one thing I think is interesting is businesses that are actually much further ahead and a bit more mature, many of them need to go backwards a little bit. Today, we're going to be focusing on challenge 1, which is Make It Ambitious, and challenge 2, which is Make It Matter. As I say, I see these 2 challenges as foundations that need to be in place, because if they're not in place, whatever you build upon them will be shaky and really easily knocked down. And I couldn't hope for a better person to come here today and talk to us about those challenges. No pressure. David is the Global Head of Sustainability at Reckitt. In his career to date, has worked for brands like Co-op, Waitrose, Diageo. For those that don't know, Reckitt is a big global corporate. You'll know lots of their brands like Durex and Strepsils and Dettol. I met and spoken with David quite a few times over the last few years, and I always get so much out of our conversations. I go away with lots of new thoughts and ideas, so I was really chuffed when you said, David, you could come along today. When I interviewed David for the report, I kind of couldn't write fast enough. I was like, I need to write that down. I need to quote David. I need to put that in there. And actually, reflecting back on it, most of our conversation focused on those first 2 challenges of making it ambitious and making it matter. Reckitt, in my mind, are much further ahead of lots of the companies I spoke to. And David's come today to tell you a bit more about the journey that they've been on, with a particular focus on a couple of things. David said to me, I've got to stop you right at the start in my sort of 30 seconds. I've got to stop you, Ryan, and ask you what you mean when you say purpose. He said, every business has a purpose and a short purpose statement, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're genuinely making a positive impact on a social or environmental problem. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and the need to move beyond a purpose statement. Another quote from David, which I say all the time, is that Reckitt doesn't have a sustainability strategy. We have a business strategy that defines how sustainability and social impact is going to help us achieve it. And for me, that's just a really nice, simple way, the sort of epitome of a business that has defined the return on impact, as we call it, or essentially made that commercial business case and rationale for doing good.